Hey guys, welcome back to another video, another devlog for Plants vs Zombies. We continue working on the next steps for this game, and as a recap of what happened at last devlog, it was just me creating the assets for the game already, like the character models and the level and all that. That was the main priority first before I wanted to actually work on the actual game, so I don't have to do like gray boxing or any of that stuff. I didn't want to do that, so I wanted to get some of that stuff in already. I still need to do more tweaking on them in the future, but I have the basic setup for it already, so I can at least start doing the gameplay and all that stuff. So yeah, so we can get started and actually working in the Unreal Engine. Yeah, I'm excited guys. I hope you guys are too. One thing I wanted to bring up before I actually continue, if you're watching on my Gunslinger B2 channel, this will be the last video I'll be posting there for anything programming related, game dev vlogs and all that, tutorials and all that kind of stuff. Anything game making, game creating related type of videos will not be posted in the Gunslinger B2 channel anymore. As I mentioned in the previous video, I'm gonna be separating to a different channel just because the Gunslinger B2 channel is getting too crazy and it's all over the place. So I created a different channel. Let me actually give me 1 second. Hopefully you guys can hear that. Cool. So the new channel is gonna be called JoJo Dev or JoJo Game Dev. Yeah, JoJo Game Dev. I'll be posting the link to the channel in the description and also in the video as a card or something like that you could click on. So if you're interested in or still want to continue watching anything programming related or dev blogs or game creation and game making stuff that I usually do, I will be uploading a new channel from now on, so feel free to follow there if you're interested and give it a follow, a subscribe. It would definitely be appreciated because it does help me out. And yeah, so I guess I don't know if it's caution or not, but this will be the last video I'll be posting in the Gunslinger B2 channel. So just as a heads up. But if you're watching this in the JoJo Game Dev, appreciate you guys being there. And if you're interested in this, please give it a follow. If you're interested, it's not necessary, but it does help me out a lot. So feel free to like this video, subscribe if you're interested, and give hit that bell icon as well. All right. So without further ado, let's start this bad boy. My goal here right now is to start setting up the actual gameplay mechanics or functionality in the game already. I already have the level already here where it's going to have all the playing field. In the original Plants vs Zombies, that the grid is actually smaller than what I'm going to be using here. I'm going to be using a 9x12 grid just because it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be fun and maybe more chaotic, hopefully. So I'm deciding to make it a bigger grid. So what I'm doing here right now is start setting up the grid, and this grid is going to consist of having cells in it, right? Each of these cells is inherited from an actor, and this cell class is going to be the one that's going to determine what the cell is going to be, right? If the cell is occupied, if the cell is going to have a plant in it, if the cell is going to be highlighted or not. And that's, I'm going a little bit too ahead, but that's the plan. But my focus right now is start laying out the actual grid. And as you can see, I'll start laying it down and you can see everything being green. That's awesome, man. I like it. And yeah, so going to the next thing is to start integrating when the mouse is over a certain cell. And so because I need to be able to determine when I'm going to be placing this plant into a certain cell that I want to place it at. And there's different ways you can go about this, and one is that you can do a raycast. The other one you can do is be able to convert the mouse position to world space and convert that into grid coordinates to be able to see if this mouse is within the grid. But I actually ended up going in the direction of the mouse events. What's great about an Unreal Engine is that the skeletal mesh is able to check and listen to mouse events. So if you set that skeletal mesh correctly and making sure that they listen to mouse events, you're able to use these events. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a clickable component that inherits from actor component, and this is where all the functionality for it is going to be in, and it's going to be added into the cell, so that each cell is going to be this component is going to be added to the cell, so that each component is able to determine when a mouse is over a grid. So now that I have that implemented in here, you can see that when I hover over a cell, it displays the log and shows what grid coordinate is on. So it looks like this is working. I'm excited, and I may be using this to determine what cell I may be placing the plant on. Now that I have this working, I have the grid. I'm spawning the grid, and it's able to detect mouse hover events to be able to determine what cell I'm on. The next thing that I want to work on is to implement the ability to highlight a cell when you're hovering over it. If you play the original Plants vs Zombies game, when you're about to place a plant, the entire row and column gets highlighted. And I think that's something that I would like to have here. I think would be pretty cool. So the way that I would like to go around this, or the way that I planning to do this, is to modify the material of the grid, or actually the cell, and add a parameter that would determine the color and pass that into the emission color. And so that when you hover over a cell, you're able to tell it what color you want the cell to be highlighted on, and be able to pass that parameter into the material, or into the shader, I guess. So once, as you can see, now that I have that in here, when I hover over a cell, it highlights them. Right now I only have it for the lighter grass cell. But now that I have this working, I also want to do it for the green ones, and also to clear the previous highlighted cells. So once I have that in here, it looks like this is working, which is great, which is exactly what I want. I'm one step closer, guys, one step closer. But I'm still not done yet. The next thing I want to work on is to also highlight the entire row and column that I'm currently on, and that shouldn't be too difficult to do. You already know what row and column you're already located in. So all you have to do is you will create two for loops, right? One for loop that will iterate through the entire column, the current column that you're on, and highlight the entire cells in there, and then do another for loop for the row and highlight the entire rows for that current cell that you're on. And now that I have that in here, you can see that it works. It looks like it's working. I still want to modify this a little bit more and polish it up a little bit more, but I'll do that later on, because that's something that I want to do after, right? Polishing comes after. But I have the functionality working, and it looks like it's where I want it to be at. So now that I have, I have the playing field working, right? I have all the cells displaying on the grid. I'm able to detect when I'm hovering over a certain cell, and now I'm also determining, like, I'm also displaying the highlights as well, which is what I wanted this to do. The next thing is to add data assets into the project, and just different ways that you could go about this. And one of the ways is to create a structured blueprint that you can then use the variables that you need. But every time I create a new project or a new game that I'll be working on for these devlogs, I always want to do something that I want and learn something from it. So I went in the direction of creating my own custom data assets. And the way that you accomplish this is that you will need to create another version of your project that will run in editor mode, so that you can create your own editor custom scripts, so that when you right click on the UI, you're able to see the custom data asset that you created and be able to spawn it, right? So I have two different data assets that I would like to create. One of those data assets, one for the characters or the plants, and this is going to create all the stats for that plant and all that. As you can see here, I have the prefab that is going to be to determine what plant I want to spawn, the number of hits that it's going to need for the plant to die, and all that kind of things. And eventually this is going to be customized, and more variables going to be added in the future. And the other custom data asset is for the UI. It's going to contain an array of elements of character custom data assets, and I'm gonna use this array, and also contain the image, right? And I'm gonna use this array to be able to initialize the UI. So once I have the custom data assets created, well, I'd like to start, we're looking into creating the UI. So I create two different widgets, one for the main HUD, and the other one, I'm calling it an asset entry, but this asset entry is basically the buttons that you'll be clicking on. And once I have that in there, I'm gonna work on the HUD to have a reference to the UI custom data assets and be able to iterate through all those elements that like data asset has, and be able to create all these buttons that I'll be displaying in the HUD for the player to click on. But I don't want to spawn the plants yet. The main goal right now is to make the UI work, and when I press on the button, it displays the log. And right now, almost like at least whatever the log is going to play, I just want to make sure the UI is actually working and then it's in a good place. And once I have that in here, as you can see, I'm looking into making it work. I have the button created right now, which is great, but it doesn't display the log yet. So I'm gonna be updating the blueprint to be able to print something on it, and we'll be able to say hello, which is great. Now that I have majority of this stuff working, you know, I have the grid displaying, I have it so that it determines what cell it's active depending on where the mouse is at, and be able to highlight it. I have custom data assets for each of the plants, and be able to display the UI correctly where I want this to be at, right? The next thing that I want to work on is to start placing the plants into the grid or the cells. What I have to do in this thing is to, once I press the button, is to spawn the plant, and then after that, after it is spawned, is to move the plant with the mouse so that it drags. So it considered like it's dragging, right? You're dragging the plant into the grid. So the way that I did this was to do a ray cast or line trace, I guess this is what it's called here, to see if once I hit a collision or a skeletal mesh in this case, is to then use the impact point, and that's where I'm gonna be placing the plant. So as long I'm doing this line trace in the update, so it's doing this in every tick, and so every time it's colliding with something, it's gonna be placing the plant in that direction. So it will look like hey, I'm dragging this plant around the world, right? I don't think that this is going to be too heavily or will cost too much performance, because you're only doing it once for one character at a time. So, but if it does, I will have to change that up a bit. But for now, I'm gonna go in this direction, but I'll keep that in mind. But yeah, so this is what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna click on the button, spawn the plant, do a line trace, and be able to place in the plant on the grid. But I still have to add the functionality of, once I spawn the plant and I'm dragging this plant around, I need to figure out what cell the plant is going to be on, right? So I'll have to update this a little bit, so that the functionality that I added before on the hover, I'll keep track of the current cell that I'm on at all times. And once I click again on the mouse click, if the mouse is currently on an active cell, or an active cell, by that I mean that the mouse is hovering over a cell, if I click on it and it's hovering over a cell, then I'll place that plant in that cell. Otherwise, if I'm not within anywhere within the grid and it's outside, I can just destroy the plant. So right now I'm just destroying the plant, but I might just change that up later on, maybe create a pool, an object pool. But anyways, yeah, as you can see right now, it is working. I create the plant when I click the button. I drag it around, and once I click again and it's on an active cell, it will then be placed the pea shooter into the cell. Um, the next thing that I would like to add also is start making sure that I'm able to do this for multiple different types of plants. So right now I'm just doing it for the pea shooter, right? And I'm just creating an army of pea shooters right now. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be chaotic once I actually have this working, I think. It's because the grid it's a 9x12, right? But yeah. So I'm creating an army of pea shooters, but I need to be able to make sure that I'm able to do it for other plants as well. So my next goal right now is to make it work with the sunflower. Excuse me. Forgive me how about how the plant's actually looking right now. It looks like it didn't get imported correctly. I may have to redo them again. Export them correctly because someone lost its color and all that kind of stuff. So it is what it is. But right now I'm creating another data asset for the sunflower, making sure it actually also works. And it's added into the UI and data asset as well. And once that is added, I have another button, and I'm able to spawn the sunflower as well once I click on it. But yeah, so it's just basically setting up the actual sunflower as well to make sure it works. I have to update the base blueprint as well so that it actually affects the sunflower. So right now, as you can see, it doesn't work because it doesn't have the functionality of placing the character or the plant on it, because the functionality is actually on the blueprint of the pea shooter. I have to enable the input for all the sunflowers, all the plants, and so that I don't have to redo this every single time. I will have to also, instead of adding the functionality on the pea shooter blueprint, I'm gonna do it on the base blueprint, so that way the sunflower is also able to be placed on the grid. So that is the plan that I'm doing right now, is be able to do that. After all that is done, now I can start placing the sunflowers now. They both work. So that means that if I want to add another one, like say the next thing will be, I don't know, the snow pea shooter or whatever, maybe a chomper or whatever, or all of these, every time I add a new one, not all the plants should be able to be placeable now. And yeah, looks like this is working. And like I said before, I'll need to update the meshes on these plants. For some reason it didn't import correctly, so I will need to look into this and see, figure out what's going on here. But yeah, so I got majority of the gameplay is already in here. I still have some more stuff to do, but the initial stuff is already done and completed. And the next thing that I need to jump on is to make some updates to the UI. I originally had it on the left side of the game view, but I'm gonna be putting it down below on the bottom, in the center bottom, just because it was obstructing some of the mouse events for the cells. So I think it'll be better to move it down there. And I plan to make some updates to some button animations when you hover over a button or when you press a button. And I also added a cooldown effect, so when you place a plant, it will then it will spawn or show you a black image in front of the button, and then we'll animate from the bottom to the top as it's cooling down. And this is that way you're not gonna be spamming the plants all over the place, right? So I'll have some cooldown time. And yeah, so I want to do some of those updates, and once I have that in, the next thing that I wanted to do is to make sure the cooldown actually worked, because right now if you place a plant anywhere, even if you didn't place it in the grid, the cooldown still shows, and I actually don't want that. So the way that I'm going to handle this is that I have a grid manager, and this grid manager handles all the functionality for the grid and the mouse events and all that. And in this, I'm going to be creating a function that's going to be blueprint implementable, and that way I'm able to call the function anywhere in the grid manager C++ code, but I'll be able to initialize it somewhere in the blueprint, because since most of the UI is done in the blueprint side, I needed to call some of those functions to, to show the UI for the cooldown. So I implemented in the blueprint side for that new function. I would then be able to grab the HUD, and be able to call to activate the blueprint. And this function that's going to be blueprint implementable is going to have a parameter that's going to tell it if it should activate or not, because if you place the plant outside of the grid, it shouldn't be doing the cooldown because you never actually placed the plant, so it should never activate it. But if it did place it in the grid, then it should activate it, which is what this boolean value is going to be doing. So if it's true, it will activate the cooldown, and it should be doing it. And after I've done majority of that, now you can see that it's actually working. I'm able to place all of the plants, and the cooldown is actually working. And in the end, I think the last thing I wanted to do here was to add the snow pea shooter in here. So that's the last thing I wanted to do in this devlog, is to do that. So let's do that real quick. So I'm gonna be adding the snow pea shooter in here, adding the new data asset for it, and then be able to see a new button, a UI, and then I'll be able to spawn it. And after that, you can see I'm spawning all of them, and I'm in a good place. So yeah, guys, I'm actually excited that I have majority of this, not majority, I still have a lot more to do, but the basic functionality of the Plants vs Zombies game already in here. So now that I'm able to spawn, just waiting for this to actually initialize correctly, I'm able to spawn, pea shooters. I cannot click it again. I can spawn sunflowers, spawn pea shooters, and all that shenanigans. If I place it outside, it destroys itself, but I can still place it again until it's actually in here. But yeah, it's basically the basic functionality is already implemented, and now I can actually start in the actual fun stuff now. Yeah, so basic, quick recap of what I've done here is basically I brought in the level here into Unreal and be able to create the grid and all the cells, and be able to do some mouse events when you hover over a grid, so that I'm able to determine what cell I'm actually on, and be able to do some highlights on here like I'm doing right now. And after that, I'll be able to create the UI, create some of the custom data assets that I'm gonna use for each of the plants to be able to display the UI like I am down here with the three different pea shooters. And yeah, and I'm able to drag it, click the buttons, spawns a plant, and I'm able to place it in anywhere in the grid. And yeah, so this is basically a quick recap of what I've done so far. I still have other things to do, but yeah, that's all I wanted to do in this devlog. And my next goal right now, let me bring up my Trello board real quick here. So here we go. All right, so some things I gotta do. Next things is for the plants to do their thing, and by that I mean that each plant does its own thing, right? Which is a pea shooter shoots peas or projectiles, right? Sunflowers spawn sun, chompers chomp on zombies, mines come up and explode, and be able to have the walnut to also handle taking, I guess any other things can happen. The walnuts doesn't really doesn't have any like huge functionality, unless you want to change some like animation states and stuff when it gets eaten. So I guess that can be something as well. You can have plants take damage, start spawning the zombies, and the zombies do their thing. Zombies to do damage, the global spawning of the sun, track collecting the sun. So when you collect sun, it tracks, you gotta track those, deduct sun when you actually start placing the plants, and be able to disable some of the buttons when you don't have enough sun to spawn them. And there's still a lot of stuff. There's still like particle effects that I need to do. A bunch of stuff. I'll keep adding more to this stuff over time, but this is the majority of the stuff that I have here. And the next thing that I would like to work on, I guess I can start off with, is basically for the plants to do their thing, right? Either that or do the global sun, so that I can start doing the plant stuff, right? I want to get majority of the plant stuff out of the way, and I can start doing those. And after that, I can start doing the zombies, and the zombies should be a lot easier. But yeah, that's basically the plan for the next thing. I know there's still a lot of other stuff here, like for animations. I know I mentioned that in the last Devlog that this is the animations. So I'll figure out how to make the animations work better than I have it currently, just because it doesn't look that great. I want to redo that a little bit. I'm debating if I should add some eyes to the plants or not. I gotta figure out all that stuff, right? But I want to get the basic functionality in here, and all that polishing and all that stuff. We'll save it up to when that stage comes in, right towards the end. Let's get the gameplay working and start it. So yeah, that's it for this Devlog. I still, like I said, still have a lot of more things I gotta do, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please, give it a follow, like the video, subscribe if you're interested in, and I'll be able to see you guys in the next one. I'm excited to continue, and let's see what else it has in store. I know I mentioned earlier that this video was going to be uploaded depending on where you're watching, though, right? If you're watching my iGunslinger B2 channel, this is the last video that will be uploading there. So when I say subscribe to the channel, hopefully you subscribe to the new one, the JoJo Game Dev. I'll post the link to the channel in the description. I can also post it in the link, or as a card in the actual video itself, but for sure it will be in the link. So if you do enjoy this stuff and want to see more about these Devlogs, I'll start posting it in the other channel now, and I hope I see you guys there. Yeah. All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Signing out.